Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Spiritually Crashed. I'm your host, Gethin Mayers, and today we have got how other people can get into mediumship and spirituality. So this is a really interesting topic because lots of people ask how. How do you do it? How can I get involved? How can I become a medium? How can I become more spiritually in tune? And it's quite an interesting one because it's such a wide variety of things. So mediumship is different to spirituality. It's just the fact that they go hand in hand together. So spirituality is just all about just basically improving yourself, basically realizing one day you wake up and you're like, yeah, I've had enough of this kind of life. I don't want to keep living it like how I'm living. I don't want to keep living how I'm so sad all the time. I'm negative all the time. I'm attracting negativity. And spirituality is all about that awakening, if you will, that you start to understand that there's more to life than feeling that way, than constantly living in the darkness. And it's all about finding your light. So one of the quotes that really stuck with me since I've come onto this spiritual journey is you've got to go through the darkness to appreciate the light. And what this means is I basically hit rock bottom. You know, my life was nearly over. I've had multiple attempts at taking my own life. And if I didn't find spirituality when I did, I definitely wouldn't be here now. Because like I said, my life was just full of darkness. It was full of negativity. I didn't have much positivity around me. Even though I was doing well with my career, I was doing well with my friends. Obviously, my relationships was suffering a little bit, but they were still there. They were still a strong relationship because my ex at the time, before I came into the spiritual movement, they stuck around. They allowed me to do what I want. So I had all the fundamentals. I had family. There was good support around me, but something just didn't feel right in myself. And I just felt very wrong. I felt very negative. I felt very, I don't know, distant from the world. I didn't feel like I was my true self. I didn't feel like I was living life. I felt like I was just getting through life. And I think that's what a lot of people do these days is rather than living the life that they want, they just live the life they have. And that hits really deep. And it's quite sad that people think that this is the only way that they can live life. They wake up, they go to work, and then they come home and that's their life. But it don't have to be this way. Even if you're working, you can do a job that you enjoy. You can do a job that you love, and you can share it with people that you love as well. And this is what spirituality is all about. Is all about that improvement to improve yourself rather than to improve for other people. You do it for you. You want to become more mentally aware, spiritually aware, physically aware. You're doing things so that you're better than the person you were the day before. And I find it so lovely the fact that it's never too late to change your life around. You know, you could be 4 years old or you could be 70 years old. It's never too late. Obviously, the later in life that you start doing things, then you're not going to enjoy it as long. So this is a better reason to do it after you've listened to this podcast. Just have a think about some of the areas in your life where you've been a little bit negative recently, where you could have thought positively about it. So a lot of the worst moments in my life where I was in my absolute darkness have actually led me to this point on this journey now. If they had never happened when they happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. If I never separated my ankle from my foot, became an alcoholic, became severely depressed, dropped out of uni, I never would have gone to Thailand because I never would have gave up rugby. I would have still been playing rugby. I would never have gone into kickboxing, Muay Thai. So, and because I started kickboxing, Muay Thai and I wanted to develop, that's why I went to Thailand. That's why I started doing solo traveling to Thailand and stuff like that. If I never dropped out of uni, I never would have gone to the spiritual church because the opening, I would have been up in Cheltenham and I would have missed the Aberystwyth opening spiritual church. So I never would have made this change in my life. And it's kind of one of those things that I've kind of been directed into this direction of spirituality. And you're probably the same. If you're listening to this podcast, you've probably got a bit of curiosity or something's telling you that you need to change and you're in the right place. So spirituality is all about just becoming one with yourself and accepting who you are and accepting that you can't change the past. The future isn't here yet. So the only thing that you can focus on is the present. And I think once you get this mindset that you can only control the present moment. You can't control the future. You can't control the past. You can create your future, but you still can't control every aspect of that future. The only thing you can control right now is your actions, your thoughts, your emotions, and how you feel. So, like, have you always heard the saying, are you a glass half empty or a half full kind of person? Well, you should be a half full kind of person, because when you're a half full kind of person, you're able to fill up other people's cups. You're able to be a very positive person, and positivity is infectious. I got sent a picture the other day, and it was like, your energy can either affect people or infect people. And that was really, really good. Or was it effect? Either way, it basically meant, like, if you're a negative person, you're going to have a big impact on people in a negative way. If you're a positive person, you're going to affect people in a good way, in the fact that they want to change. I'm not very good with English, but it was something along those lines. And this is why I love spirituality so much, is the fact that anyone is welcome. Anyone is welcome into spirituality. You could be Muslim, Jewish, Buddha, Christian, atheist, and you're welcome into spirituality, because it's all about bettering everyone. It's about bettering yourself, becoming a better person, being more positive, and dealing with the darkness that's going on around you. So I've been there. I know exactly what it's like to be living every day in the darkness, not really having a direction. But trust me when I tell you, there is hope for everyone. I was drinking stupid amounts. I was a proper alcoholic. I was gambling constantly. I wasn't in a good place. Like, I wasn't present. And I'd have conversations with people, and I watch back over old videos of myself, and the person I was then, I don't know who they are. I really don't know who they are, because even on the videos, they don't sound happy. You could tell that they were faking it. And I don't understand how people don't. Like, I look at my old videos and I'm like, Jesus, how did people not see the signs? How did I not see how bad I actually got? And it really put into perspective. So when I came into the movement, I made a huge change. I decided, it was the countdown of 2022. I was in the club, we did the countdown, and as it struck, I took a sip of my last drink and I said, this is going to be my last drink I'm ever going to have. And that was such a huge statement. I don't recommend anyone doing that, and cold turkey in it like I did. But when I say I'm doing something, I've always had a very strong mind. That's one thing I've always been proud of, is if I say I'm going to do something, it might take me a day, it might take me a year, it might take me 10 years. But eventually, I will get it done. And yeah, that night, countdown, New Year's 2022, 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. I literally said, I'm not going to have a drink anymore. And I got the video somewhere of me actually saying this, where it's like, oh, Happy New Year. I'm going to make changes, and I'm like proper slurring my words in the video. And every now and then I do look back at that video and I'm like, my God, my God. I'm very lucky to be here. The state I was then, my hair was I wasn't looking after myself. I was very overweight with it. So there was lots of things like that as well. And it's nice to reflect. It's nice that I've made this little journey of myself, that I can see how far I've come, how positive I've become. So that's a little insight on how spirituality is for everyone. It's not just for one person. So mediumship is basically connected to spirituality, because mediumship is all about proving that the soul lives on. So it's all about love, light, and all that jazz. So that's why the mediumship kind of comes into spirituality. It's because of they both got the same purpose of just bringing that comfort, that upliftment, to prove that your soul, you can change your soul, even though there's some set events. But that's a topic for another time. We'll probably talk about that in another podcast, about the soul contract and everything like that. But basically, yeah, spirituality is all about going through the darkness and then learning to appreciate the light. So if you're looking to get into mediumship, spirituality, there's quite a good few ways that you can go about it. So obviously you got community. So your community is going to be a big factor to it. So there's things like spiritual churches, there's mediumship shows, there's people who are in the movement. So if you know anyone who's already spiritual, or they know a bit or two about like meditation, mindfulness, all that kind of stuff, just have a conversation with them. And most people who are mindful, they are quite a spiritual person, even if they don't realize it. So if you know someone who's quite mindful, who seems like they meditate, they kind of seem like a happy person, obviously check in on your mates, because I was a very like laugh of the group. But I'm saying that a lot of times you can tell people who are spiritual. There's spiritual phase, and obviously you got things like online as well. You'll find a community online, but your community is your best bet. Courses, that's another one, which is you build a community because other people are interested, or they're curious, or you just feel drawn to. There's no such thing as a coincidence, and everything happens in life for a reason. So there's also loads of books that you can read. I've read loads of books on controlling your mind, discipline, spirituality, because a lot of mindfulness is spirituality. So even if you think you're just reading a book to help with your discipline, self-discipline, like Atomic Habits, for instance, that's a very good example. So Atomic Habits is all about just sorting your life out, basically. But that's a very spiritual book. You don't have to believe in like the spirits and stuff like that, but it's just a very spiritual book. The fact that you're learning to control your energy, your mind, your thoughts, your output to life. So books, that's another podcast episode. So I'm just plugging the podcast for the future. So, and then the other one is about self-healing as well. If you want to self-heal, spirituality is the thing for you, because it takes you into a state where you have to heal yourself in order to learn that your demons don't control your life. You are in control of your life, and that's what spirituality is all about, is the fact that you are in control. Not Bob from down the road, it's you. And once you get this idea in your head that you are to blame for why your life is how it is, and as hard as that sounds, right? Because it took me ages to understand this. When I first heard this, I read it in a book, and it basically said, like, you are the result of your actions, or no one else is to blame, you are the result. It was something along those lines. And at first I was like, nope, there's other people who's done me wrong and everything like this. And then when I really sat down and meditated on the idea, it really did come, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, I could have been doing this, when instead I was just scrolling on my phone, or I was a toxic person. I didn't have to say that to this person. And it was little things. So even though some things are out your control, and like I keep saying, you can't control other people's actions and they make you feel a certain way, we are a big part to blame on who we are, because you take it, we talk to ourselves day in, day out. So if you're talking negatively about yourself constantly, obviously you're going to have more negative thoughts. If you start talking about yourself in a positive light, saying, I like who I am smart. I taught myself how to read, and I used to have this issue before where I'd be talking about myself in a very bad light. I'd be like, oh, I'm dull, I'm stupid, I'm never going to make anything of myself, I'm this, I'm that. And I look back now and I'm like, Jesus, the only thing I ever liked going about myself was the fact that I was always a very confident, outgoing person. I've always been a very out there person, never really cared what other people think about me, but I was my own worst critic. So someone could call me fat and I wouldn't care. But when I called myself fat, oh my God, it hurt so much. And it got to a point where I was blind to how fat I was at one point. You know, I was like 120 kg, 128 kg, a big boy, you know. And when I was leading up to that weight, I used to be like, oh yeah, I'm fat and the largest in my group, blah, blah, blah. And then it got to the point I just became blind and oblivious to it. And then it was one day I walked past the mirror and I was like, Jesus, when did this happen, you know? So I was my own worst critic. So I didn't care what people said about me. I cared what I said to me. And I've turned that into my fuel now. So I'm kind to myself. Every morning when I wake up, I say 5 nice things about myself, just to make me feel good for the day. Because when you start talking about yourself positively, because you're talking to yourself constantly, you start to improve mentally, spiritually. And this is what spirituality is all about, is changing them negatives into a positive. So If you feel like giving someone a compliment, do it, right? Because in today's society, we care too much about what other people are going to think about us for giving our nice opinions. Obviously, if it's going to offend someone, avoid saying it. Try to avoid negative thoughts. And if you're around a person who's negative, just remind yourself, in your head while they're talking negatively that this isn't a reflection of you. You're going to be thinking positive. And when bad situations happen to you as well, it's all about looking at the brighter side. Like I said, if the bad things never happened to me, where I separated my ankle, I dropped out of uni, I wouldn't be where I am now. And at the time, I had so much tunnel vision that I was just like, my life's a mess. It's just constant darkness. And now I sit back and I am so grateful those dark times happened to me because I am so strong because I was able to get through it. And I know that whatever you're going through now, you'll be able to get through it. It might not be the outcome you want. It might not happen straight away. But I know you will get through it because there's always light at the end, especially after you've heard people like myself who had more than 9 attempts, and I've survived every single one. And I couldn't even tell you how I survived. The last attempt, November 21, I was hanging from the ceiling. I kicked the bench away from underneath my feet, and I was hanging from the ceiling. I blanked out, and the bench came back underneath my feet. There was no one around, and to me, that was the sign of spirit. Obviously, I'd been going to church a little bit then, and I started to become a believer, but that was my last attempt. And from there on, it's just been like a light switch has switched in me that I can't keep going living my life like this. And I know you'll find that switch in yourself. So I hope this has helped you understand a little bit on how other people can get into spirituality. To sum it up, basically, to get into spirituality, you basically just want to improve your mind, get out your current situation, get out the darkness, and find your light. And then the mediumship, obviously that's talking to like spirits, dead stuff. But that's just about the soul, just lives on. So that's why mediumship and spirituality go hand in hand. But they are completely different things. It's just they got a lot of similarities that cross over. So I hope this has really, really helped you. And I do hope that you carry on listening to the podcast because in later topics, we'll dive deeper into some of the topics on how you can improve your mindset. Because on paper, just thinking positive is an easy thing to say, but we need to start putting methods and stuff into place so we know how we can develop it, how we can go forward, and how we can improve. So in future episodes, this is the aim of the podcast. It's just so we feel a bit better in our minds. But I know you can get out of that dark place. And I know you're a fighter. The fact you're listening to this podcast just goes to show you're looking for help. You're looking for that direction, that guidance. And I'm so proud of you for wanting to make that change. It's not going to happen overnight. But the fact that you're looking, you're starting to get curious about, I can't live this life anymore in the darkness. That is so amazing. And I'm so proud of you. We just got to keep this momentum now. We got to keep our knowledge expanding. We got to keep moving forward. And just remember how far you've actually come. Because a lot of people don't actually remember how far we've come in life and the challenges we've already overcome and what lessons we can take from the bad times. So thank you all so much for your time and listening. I hope you really can reflect on your past, and I really do hope that this has inspired you even more to come into the spiritual movement, even more to look into like community and building a community for yourself and getting out of all of those negative thoughts and start being a little bit kinder about yourself. So thank you very much, and I hope you all have a smashing day.